Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. So Meathead gets stabbed to death by his own son, and the first thing I think is this is Shakespearean. Well, I thought it was biblical, and then I switched to Shakespearean later. And of course, I tried to relate it back to me, and that's why mostly people are here, because of these Rob Reiner things that I guess YouTube wants us all to be talking about it. So, so I do, and that sends me to watching Being Charlie. And I don't want to be too repetitive, but watching Being Charlie leads me to Utah, because it starts in Utah, which leads me to the first actor that I see on screen besides the main characters is a childhood neighbor. And from around the corner, my mother's best friend's son, a man with whom I shared a ride to school every day of my life for years. You know, literally my mom's best friend. And that leads me to Kids Incorporated and my audition for Kids Incorporated. Now, I think a lot of people here don't know about Kids Incorporated, because I think a lot of the people here are my age or even older. But you might have had kids that watched it or whatever. I auditioned for it in 1983 when I was about 15 years old, and I was auditioning for the Soda Jerk, right, who was supposed to be the oldest person. Anyway, fast forward to today, and I think, why have I never even watched the video? I've never seen Kids Incorporated. I've told the story about it a number of times, about how I auditioned. I knew that it went on, and somewhere along the line I found out that Fergie, blah, 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 other things. I found out that it became a long-running thing. I knew that because I knew it got picked up, and I knew that my neighbor was bummed that he didn't get taken to L.A., you know. The drama was that they were going to film it in Utah and keep it in Utah, you know, at Osmond Studios. And, but they didn't. They backed out of the deal. They moved it. They did the one pilot episode called The Beginning. I found out today that it was called The Beginning, you know. But after that, when they became a new series, that kind of, I don't even know if it ever got released. I suspect that it never did. And I've never seen it, and you'd think that I would have seen it, but, you know, I'm thinking, how have I never seen it? And then I remember, oh yeah, back in those days, we didn't have the internet. You know, if something was released or not released, and I don't think this was released on anything but like VHS, and I didn't get the role, why would I see it? I wasn't hanging out with Christopher Robin Miller, you know. I wasn't hanging out with him anymore. I moved away, I went on a mission, came back. I don't think I've even seen him in true life since, since I went on my Mormon mission and came back. I might have seen him once, but I don't think so. He's my Facebook friend, you know, and sometimes we see some overlapping things where our friends will post on each other's wall from Utah, and I'll go, oh, there's Christopher Robin Miller. He's still acting, still got an IMDb credit list of mostly kids shows from what it looks like, and some that are overlapping, by the way. He's in Aquabats, and I knew those guys and I didn't promote them, but they came to early shows of my band, Swim Herschel Swim, and we were apparently an inspiration for them. Anyway, but today I decided, well, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look up the pilot episode, you know, see how it turned out. And I hope you're sitting down, because I have some shocking Hollywood news for you. It seems to me that I was lied to. Okay? Yeah. The producers, or the casting people, or whoever the fuck I did my audition for, I think they lied to me. I think they just told me I was too old. and too tall. Because let me tell you, the guy who got my part, I think he was just as old and just as tall. Imagine how I felt. I'm crushed. I can't believe he would lie to me like that. Okay. Anyway, so I watched this whole hour. It's an hour. It's the worst copy. It's VHS. It's so fuzzy, so blurry. I barely could pick out my neighbor. He had a much bigger role than I thought he did. You know, he's like one of, I don't know, 5 people that share the same amount of screen time. You know, the whole thing is about these 5 kids that make a band called Kids Incorporated. And the ironic thing is I didn't know this. I didn't know what the whole script was. When you audition for these things, you don't get the whole script. They give you a page, you know. And interestingly, when my page came up in this little production, I vaguely remembered it. And I vaguely remembered doing a bad job. I'm not a good auditioner, okay? So my audition was bad anyway, regardless of my height or my age or my coming in my wispy mustache, teenager's mustache, you know. I wasn't a good auditioner. So, but anyway, watching this thing, I'm thinking, how does this exist? Because, first of all, it's a terrible production. I mean, I guess probably most productions are bad. If you're my age, do you remember Zoom? We're gonna zoom, 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 zoom. We're gonna zoom, 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 zoom. La, 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 la. Do you remember that? PBS? Well, that production might be less expensive, but better than this one. This one had, well, I mean, it's not fair to say because I'm literally watching a VHS copy of it that looks like it's been copied 10 different times and then left in the bottom of the ocean for a year. You know, it's just the worst possible copy you could find. Just everything just smudges. But in the whole thing, there are like nothing short of like 35 songs. They're melodies. They're medleys. Medleys where they take the Police, Michael Jackson, all the top artists of the day, and they do medleys, you know. And I don't know if you know anything about syncing licenses, but there's no way that could be financially feasible by today's standards. There's just no way. I don't know how you'd pay for it. But then I noticed that it was produced by KTEL. And I thought, that's kind of the thing. I think that's the scam. I think KTEL was part of the early MTV music scam and part of the Publishers Clearinghouse scam, where you figured out how are they putting out all these cover records? You know, they would redo all the hits. They'd put out the hit records, but half the time they were sung by somebody else. They're covers, but they were meant to sound like the original. Did you ever get one of those albums for Christmas where it sounds like the Bee Gees or sounds like the Beatles and it's their whole album, but something's wrong with it? You're like going, okay, this is a knockoff. This isn't really the Bee Gees. That was really an industry for a while. Maybe it still is. I doubt it, but you'd go to the supermarket and you'd see that little rack. I don't know, when I was a kid, Smith's Food King grocery store had one little kiosk of records, you know? And I think I bought my first record there. My own first purchase, I think, was either Thriller or the B-52's Whammy. And I bought it at the grocery store, thinking that I'm buying edgy shit. Alternative shit. Yeah, Merkley, you got it at the grocery store in West Jordan. What you thought was edgy was not edgy. But anyway, I think that must have been the scam, and it's probably the reason why nobody's ever seen it, is because the licensing was probably such that they couldn't release it wide because it's got all these different titles and just expensive. I don't know. But MTV was always able to use everybody's songs, but you couldn't get the same song couldn't be played on Letterman because they'd have to pay so much, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, boring. But I'm watching this show and I'm thinking, it is really, really good. I didn't get a callback. I didn't get picked because I would have hated it. A little bit about me. I'm not a good person. I don't have much value to add to the world. Okay? I have a bunch of stupid opinions. I sit around and think about stuff. I think I'm smart, but I'm not. You know? I was way worse as a kid. You know, full of confidence, full of charm, not very bright, delusional about talents, you know. But I was a snob, and I think snobbery kind of works a little bit. I think if you're a snob, people like you. I didn't intentionally be a snob. I think I was born a natural snob. I think that's why I got called know-it-all and professor for a lot of my life. Now, I'm not saying I didn't have friends. I did. But, yeah, I think that I have a certain level of snobbiness about me that is kind of born in, you know. There's kind of a little bit of arrogance, thinking I know better, you know. I'm a smart ass. But if I had, first of all, I get it. Watching this hour, boy, I'll tell you another thing too. Watching that hour-long video felt like 10 hours. It was excruciating to watch these terrible medleys of some kids that I thought back then, you know, even yesterday I said that some of the kids were talented. And I saw a couple of the people and I thought, I recognized that person. The person I recognized the most was some kid dressed up like Elvis. And that rang a bell. I was like, oh, I remember the Elvis kid. I remember his mom. I remember the weird way that he acted like an adult. That's the weird thing about child stars. And Chris, the guy I knew, was a little bit like that too. Little older than they should have been in their attitudes and their cockiness. Kind of what I was just describing about myself, you know? But I remember that. Anyway, what was I saying? The snobbiness. I didn't really have the chance to be snobby in that thing because, like I said, I went down to the audition. All the people were cast, from what I remember, all the people were cast, but a few roles, namely mine. And it made sense. Now that I've seen it, it made sense that how they could leave me or my role or the soda jerk, the role I didn't get, how they could leave it to the end. Because the soda jerk, he's just the guy that runs the cafe. The whole premise is that they have to audition to be a band. So the whole show is about auditioning, about the kids, how they want to audition, how they organize their audition. And then there's one black kid that's too scared to actually audition or even talk to anybody, who of course ends up being the best one at the end, and he gets his role without auditioning because he was dancing by himself. And somebody who was already in the band, the oldest girl, says, "You're amazing, come be in our band." And then they do the Kids Incorporated theme song at the end. Really corny. Really kind of condescending. I mean, it's just a really bad production, but I'm watching it and I realize, the soda jerk, he's not in any of the dance numbers, right? None of them. Everybody else has to be in these really awful, choreographed, typical, stereotypical solid gold. And by this time it was out of date, because the other detail is that I don't think at this point though, in 83, I don't think I was breakdancing yet. I don't think I was pop locking yet. I feel like that came right after that. You know, because 83, that's pretty early. You know, graduated in 85. No, I think I must have been starting. And I think that's probably why Louise, Chris's mom, wanted me to audition, is because I was out dancing and doing street dancing and performing and, you know, winning contests in those regards. But I'll tell you one thing. Pop locking and doing traditional choreography are not the same thing. Traditional choreography, well, for one thing, it's harder. It's harder because you have to do the same thing everybody else is doing. And when you're pop locking or breakdancing, you're just improvising. You do whatever the fuck you want. Just herky-jerky, strange moves. You move with the way the rhythm makes you move, you know? It's a solo affair. You can do some choreography, and sometimes you do it with your friend, and you learn a couple moves, but you could invent the moves, and then they'd have to follow you. But following along with somebody else, not my thing. And so that wouldn't have worked, and I would have hated the choreography anyway. I would have not wanted to do that. And you know how I know I would have hated it? Because I was such a wily little fuckface in high school because of my pop locking and breakdancing and, you know, herky-jerky robot weird shit type of dancing, flipping around like a noodle. Because of that, the dance instructor for my high school, a woman, invited me to be part of the dance company, which, up until that point, had been all girls. And I thought, that sounds kind of faggy. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't be the only boy in dance company. People are already calling me a fag. They're already calling me a new wave preppy faggot. This would merely increase that. So I was hesitant, but then she asked me to come in and do a routine for the girls. You know, she said, well, at least come in to class and show us some of your moves, and we can incorporate them into one of our dance routines. So I go, all right, that's kind of cool. I get to go in and do some moves for a bunch of girls in tights, you know? That seems like a good idea, although I didn't have that. I just inserted that thought right now. I'll be honest. I was more shy, and I was one of those weird kind of innocent kids. Despite being snobby, I didn't have lecherous attitudes. Let me just put it that way. I was a goody two-shoes. So I went in, but when I was doing my audition and I saw the dance space, and, you know, it's your typical dance studio, oak floors, mirrors everywhere. And I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. They all liked it. Started the boom box. It's basically like a scene from Flashdance, but in West Jordan without such great lighting, you know, fluorescent lighting. And the girls all liked it, and they clapped. And the teacher, I can't remember what her name was, but she says, how many of you girls think Merkley should join dance company? And I got a big woo applause, and I blushed and whatever. I thought, okay, I'll do it, but only if I can bring a couple other dudes in with me. I said, okay. So I recruited two of the other breakdancers from my school, you know? So it was just the three of us boys in dance company with a bunch of girls. And I'm going to tell you something. I wasn't good at it at all. All the fucking kickball change, pas de beret. I just wasn't good at it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't commit to it. My snobbery was kind of preventing me from doing it. I'm thinking, I don't really want to do this. This looks faggy. All the twirling, I don't really want to do it. I want to be a herky-jerky robot weirdo, you know? But I stuck with it. I was in the dance. I mean, you want to talk about faggy, okay? I was in the dance company recital. I think maybe those two other guys were in with me. But guess what number we were doing? We were doing Bronski Beat. Can you tell me what? It's the gayest of all songs. Literally, it's what's his name from Erasure, which is the gayest of all bands besides Bronski Beat. Bronski Beat is probably the gayest, even gayer than Erasure, because it was not only one gay guy, but two or three gay guys. So anyway, and I wonder why I got picked on in a cowboy town, West Jordan, Utah. And by the way, I didn't get picked on. I just kind of got, you know, like, why are you dressed like that? Why is your hair aerodynamic? That kind of thing. But anyway, back to that audition. Had I gotten that role, my snobbery would have just caused problems. I would have gotten fired, probably. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't think I would have, well, for that role, okay, let's be real here, okay? Can I tell the truth with you guys? I would have been way better than the guy that they hired. I watched him. He was stiff. All the actors are bad. So the reason why they get hired is because, thank goodness, they had bad taste. If they would have known, they should have hired me. I was I was better at being funny than that guy. I would have stolen the scene, which is bad. I was a known scene stealer because I'm a fucking narcissist asshole. But I would have been better. They probably would have liked me for that role. I wouldn't have had to dance. But then I would have been stuck in this miserable situation. I would have been stuck with a bunch of kids, everybody younger than me, everybody doing the Hollywood kickball change, while I had to sit there and play second fiddle, which is also something I'm not good at all. You know, probably one of the main reasons why I could never just be part of an entourage back in my hanging out with rock stars days, and why I had to have parties at my house, and I had to somehow figure out a way to make myself first fiddle, you know, my house, my rules, that kind of thing. You know, I'm the photographer, I'm directing the video, that kind of thing. Because second fiddle I don't like it. You know, it's not fun. I don't like it. I don't need to have all the attention, but I certainly don't want to be ignored, you know? And in that kind of situation, had I made it, I would have probably been cut, just like Christopher Robin Miller was. Although maybe not, because Christopher Robin Miller, like I said on the recording yesterday, this is turning into Hello Hollywood 40-year-old gossip podcast. It was like literally 43 years ago, right? And I'm doing gossip for now 43 years late. But I think there is a chance that I would have been dragged to LA, but not Christopher, because Christopher rubbed people the wrong way because he thought he was too talented. You know, like what I was saying with the Hello Dolly trying to commandeer the choreography, and he made all the other people feel shitty that they couldn't do it, that kind of thing. Stepping up, it's like this, you know. And another thing I noticed about Christopher, hi Christopher, if you ever listen to this, I have nothing against you. You and I were neighbors. We both know we were never friends. We were 2 years apart. And in high school, 2 years apart is an eternity. It just really is. You know, you don't hang out with people in grades lower than you. You might date a girl in 1 grade lower than you, but 2 grades or 3 grades, forget about it. And plus, Christopher had that Hollywood, kid factor, which means that he looked 2 years younger than he even was. If you do look this up, you will see what I mean. His name is Chris, right? Christopher Robin Miller. And I noticed also his arms are abnormally long. For a short man, his arms are very long. I think his body I think his arms were meant for a taller body. Something happened in his diet. His mother fed him a diet that stopped his body from growing, but not his arms. He has the arms of a man 5 inches taller than him. But anyway, so the fact that I'm going down this rabbit hole because of Nick killing his dad, because of all these issues we've discussed this week, and the dark side. And, you know, I only watched Kids Incorporated because when I saw Christopher in the Being Charlie movie, I mentioned the Kids Incorporated, and then the audience grew, and some guy, Tez, told me that Kids Incorporated has this dark thing that he's been studying, this undercurrent of really dark shit, and he gave me the background on Fergie becoming a drug addict, you know. And by the way, Stacy, I said in my recording yesterday that I thought I might have remembered her, but watching the video today, I don't think I do remember her. You know, I definitely remember the Elvis kid. I definitely remember the handsome leading guy. I can't remember what his name is, but there are a few cast members. I go, I remember seeing that guy. Remember that guy's weird mom, you know. But I don't think I remember Stacey Ferguson. But of the whole production, I can see why they kept her, because she wasn't a very good singer, but she was adorably bad. You know, she seemed like a kid. These other kids that are polished, you know, that's an annoying thing about child actors, is they have this weird, polished, not kid-like. They don't seem like kids. They seem like adults, because half the time they are adults. You got this 30-year-old man that has some hormonal issue, and he is cast as a 13-year-old. You know, hello, fellow kids. It's one of those things. But she didn't have that. She was a legitimate kid, and she seemed like a kid. A little bit off key. Her earnestness seemed more heartfelt and innocent. You know, like, have you ever seen those YouTube videos of babies who hear music and they start to cry? Just kids that are super sensitive, you know, and art is just intuitive to them. Music just really affects them stronger than most. Have you ever seen those? There was a hint of that in this Fergie thing. You saw when she's performing, what was the song she was singing? Was it Gloria? I don't know. I can't remember what the song was, but she was putting her heart into it. She's a little bit off key, but you could really, she was the only performance where you could feel like, you go, oh man, I think that little girl feels this song. You know, I think she's feeling it. That's the amazing thing about singing too, by the way, a little departure, but I still love to watch American Idol and shows like that, because I love how many people have chops. I'm amazed at how many people have like the vocal chops to deliver these powerful performances, like technically speaking. But even after all of that, when you boil it down, the people that have not just chops, but the magic, the little bit of honesty, the magic that makes you actually feel a lyric that they didn't even write, you know? It's weird how rare it is. Like, if you even think of all the seasons of American Idol and all the winners and all the contestants that got to the last, how many of them have stuck around as household names, as powerhouse singers that continue to make art and make you feel the chills when you hear them sing? Not many. It's kind of a rare thing. So, you know, when you see a little spark of that, I see why they saw that in Stacey Ferguson. This is the most retarded shit in the world, by the way. Talking about Kids Incorporated 43 years later, having just seen the thing I was rejected for, you know, 43 years later. It's kind of funny, but, you know, after talking with Tez and getting the undercurrent, just thinking about Nick and childhood acting, and, you know, and now you see my feed is filled with that. Have you seen this other kid from Nickelodeon who's a homeless guy, and that's on everybody's feed, or maybe it's just my feed, but the child actor, the tragic story of the child actor is pretty well worn by now, you know? And I don't know if we're just becoming insensitive to it, or maybe we're becoming more sensitive to it. I feel like these younger kids, like Tez and his group, you know, for as much as people like of my age like to talk shit about that group and call them snowflakes and everything, I have to say that not all of it's bad. The oversensitivity, banning all the bad words, blah, 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 I hate all that shit. But I do sense that there is a sensitivity among them that, if properly channeled, can make the world a better place, you know? Like, I asked Tez yesterday why he was doing this, and he was talking about wrestling with his own childhood and this and that. And I go, but over and over again. And he, you know, I believed him when he said he's doing it, because he says, if we can understand this better, maybe we can change things and make things better. You know, maybe we can stop it. And I believe him. I think he feels that, you know, and I'm impressed by that. I like that, you know, because when we were talking about it, he and I, yesterday, I was saying that Chris probably should be grateful that he didn't get dragged to it, but that's presumptive. He's still an actor, so he's still pursuing that. He probably doesn't feel the way I would feel about it. He probably doesn't feel grateful. I don't know. I could send him a Facebook message, but like I said, we were never chums to begin with. We drove to school every day, and our moms were best friends, but Chris and I didn't have any one-on-one bro time at all. 2 years younger, foot and a half shorter, clashing personalities. His sister was my age, and his mom was trying to set me up with his sister. There was a lot of reasons to never have actually bonded with Christopher Robin Miller, but I suspect that he probably would have rather kept the thing. But I look at it now and I just think, even though I kind of still kept pursuing it, I didn't. I think that was the only audition I went on. I did extra work. I was telling this to Tez yesterday. I don't know if I mentioned it here, but for a while there, I was this guy getting ripped off. I was so naive that I was in a band. I was kind of the man about town, promoting shows and everything when I was in my early 20s. And Utah became a place for right-to-work film productions. What's that show? Touched by an Angel was filmed there. I went to that set a lot. And, I had a friend that worked there, so I'd go get free craft services. And I had a conversation with B.B. King once there. But anyway, these movies of the week would come around. And for whatever, this casting agent got my phone number. And I don't even know if I ever even met her face-to-face. But she got my phone number from somebody who said, oh, yeah, Merkley might want to be an extra. And when she called me, I said, oh, I know a bunch of other people who will want to be extras too, And so I would just ask all my friends, guys in my band, John Hancock, late night alumni, a lot of people, and we'd show up and we'd just be extras, and we'd just hang out. And it was easy because I'm just hanging out with my friends at that point because I'm the one that's organizing. I never got a kickback or nothing. I didn't even think to ask. You'd get paid like $150 to hang around on set for 8 or 9, 10 hours. And since I was hiring all my friends, bringing all my friends, it was just like hanging out and getting paid to hang out. Craft services, I was in a couple of TV movies of the week as an extra, one with Joanna Kearns, Natural Enemies or something. I don't know. She's in a nightclub. I'm a guy in the nightclub being creepy. In another one, I'm in a wedding band of this TV movie of the week with that guy who played Stryker in Airplane, was married to Josie and the Pussycats lady, The Runaways. I can't remember his name. Bob. He looks like Bob Saget, but it's not Bob Saget. But I don't know. Look it up. But he was in it. He was a star of the show, but it was this really cheesy movie of the week where, killer bees come and my band, I'm hired to be the extra. So pretty much all my friends are in that scene of the wedding. I'm in the band. I play the guitar. All these other guys that I knew, the whole band was people that I knew, John Hancock and everything. And I plugged in my instruments the wrong way just to, because I'm a fucking asshole. Okay, I'm an asshole. And I was telling these other guys, what a jerk. They're paying us to be there. They've got all this money in this production, and I'm doing everything I can to hide Easter eggs and kind of fuck up their production. Like the way we plugged one guitar into another guitar, I think that made the cut. It's in there. But all I was really doing is making it so that if somebody noticed, I would get cut out, Anyway, jerk move. I wouldn't do that now, but my guitar, my amp that I still have that's right there. And my guitar, I have the amp and the guitar still. They're right here, 5 feet from me. That's probably not good. But it's my amp that creates the noise that the killer bees respond to. It makes them angry. And then they come and attack the wedding. And everybody's running around because they don't have look, I'm going to give you some inside baseball here. There were no actual killer bees. in the movie. I know we're all running around as if we're being attacked by killer bees, but it's just acting. Nobody was harmed by a killer bee. But when I watched that clip back, I found that clip years ago. It's on my Facebook somewhere. But I noticed that half the people in the wedding party are my friends. One of my best friends, Kevin, he's in it. And he's kind of like, we have the same attitude. He was being a cornball too, overdoing it to be a dick. And just watching him be Kevin, dancing around, waving bees off, overdoing it, is to me one of my favorite. I just love that guy so much anyway, that seeing him do that funny little dance, like, oh boy, the bees, they're getting me, I just love it. Anyway, you don't hear Hollywood stories of extras from Utah and potential child actors who never even made it because they were lied to and told, oh, honey, you're just too tall. You're just too tall. This is Kids Incorporated, not Young Adults Incorporated. But thank you for coming. You can stick around and watch us rehearse. Then I watched the young Elvis do that weird thing, acting like an adult, and his mom hovering, acting weird and overprotective and trying to sign deals. The mothers competing, whose kid is the best. Anyway, weird memories. It's just weird, but, who knows? Who knows? It's weird to imagine alternate timelines. What if this? What if that? And for me, it's pretty easy to end up being grateful because I'm glad that I made all the decisions I made. I would change a lot of things, but I am happy for the life that I live. I'm grateful. I would change a lot of things, don't get me wrong. I would have taken a lot of different roads, especially if you can do it over again. You're dumb if you do anything the same, just because it means you're not curious. I hate it when I hear people say, if I could do it all over again, I'd do it exactly the same way. I'm like, how the fuck boring are you? If you can do it all over again, your own curiosity should make you wonder what would happen if I did it completely differently. Would I still meet this person? That's what I love about that movie, Endless, what's this called? The one. God, my memory's getting shitty. Jim Carrey. Sleepless. What the fuck is that movie's name? But anyway, where they go through the therapy to erase their memories of each other. They fall in love. It's Jim Carrey and that other woman. I'm forgetting everybody's names right now. But it turns out that even though they erase each other from their memory completely, they meet again and they fall in love again. So how could you not be curious if you had to do it all over again about that one aspect? Otherwise, you're just trying to do everything the same so you will meet the person. And then you got a Groundhog Day scenario where you're Bill Murray trying very hard to get that woman in bed, but you're trying so hard she picks up on it and she goes, what the fuck? Did you rehearse all this? You got to do it different the second time. Completely different. Like every decision's got to be different. That's the only way you can be a scientist. And that's why I got called Know-It-All Professor Merkley as a child, and not in a good way. It was never a compliment when people called me Professor Merkley. Okay? And it won't be a compliment when you say it in the comments, and it already has been said a number of times by a number of people. I'm very used to it by now. Water off a duck's back. Anyway, so that's my story for today. That's my 43-year-old Hollywood gossip. Hollywood doesn't tell you the truth when they don't like you. And Hollywood not liking you might be the best thing that could ever happen to you. There you go. You like that nice little ending? I'm patting myself on the back for that one. Thanks for listening. Unnecessary outro song to totally waste more